Like their answers would be something like, but the blue bubbles though. It'd be like, but the blue bubbles is enough. It's enough for me to spend basically $1,000. Like $1,000. That's how. And I don't want to call it crazy. It just is what it is. It's like the blue bubbles. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Office Hour Tangents, where I come straight from my class and come straight to the podcast booth and just kind of talk about the tangents that I may or may not have went on in class. Sometimes those tangents are a little more valuable than the subject I'm teaching in class, but it's just not prudent to kind of not teach the items I was supposed to teach in class. So I usually go off on these tangents and then I'll stop myself, and then if it's something I want to kind of keep on addressing, I'll bring it here. So I'm just gonna get right into it today. Like, I didn't do any planning today. I'm just kind of being freestyle in my mind, and the subject matter for today, the tangent that I went on, and this was a couple classes ago, but I went on a tangent that had to do with, and I don't know kind of how to title it or how to label it, but it's just like the value of aesthetics. That's like the most academic way I could put it. The value of aesthetics. Or the thing I was kind of going with when I was talking in class was how much will we pay for shine? That was how I kind of like asked my class, asked the students, because I like asking students questions like these. Well, I like asking my students almost any question that I would ask anyone else, because I like to hear my students' perspective, because their perspective is just different from mine, and their perspective better matches the target demographic that most of these companies are going for, right? It's the 18 to 25 young professional, right? They're 18 to 22, 20 right now, and they're about to be professionals with expendable income. Like, that's a very valuable market right now. So I can tap into that market anytime I want. I can just ask them, hey, do y'all play this game? Do y'all buy these things? Do y'all like this tech? Does AI scare you? And I can get a different perspective, because when I ask my peer group, my colleagues, it comes from a different perspective. We grew up without social media. We grew up without smartphones. We grew up without Google. We grew up pretty much without the internet. Whereas this generation is the first generation that's kind of like that grew up with those items, right? It's like one of the first generations to just kind of, they can't remember not having smartphones. Right. And that just changes their perspective on everything. So when I posed the question to them, like, how much will we pay for shine? The way we got on this topic was, of course, Android versus an iPhone. Right. So if you've seen any of my other podcasts or some of the other ones, I do mention this, but I am typically, I can't front. I have an iPhone right now. I've had it for a little over 2 years. This is my first iPhone, though. It's my first ever iPhone. I have been a quiet as kept iPhone hater up to this point, and I probably am still an iPhone hater, because whenever I pose this kind of question in class or amongst my peer groups or whatever, I get a swift level of dissent, right? And it's like in this class. So anyway, my background is, I'm usually an Android guy, so when the smartphones came out, I didn't jump onto the iPhone because I'm already a Mac dude. I'm already an Apple dude. I consider myself an Apple guy, right? I have never owned a computer that wasn't an Apple. My first computer was a graphite titanium G4 tower that I spent all my graduation money, $3,000, to buy that in a computer monitor, every single cent of it. And then I upgraded to 3 or 4. I've had 3 or 4 laptops or MacBook Pros since then, right? I'm on my 4th. I think I'm on my 4th MacBook Pro right now. And I have an iMac at home, and I have a few iPads. And I'm in the Apple ecosystem, but I refuse to jump on the iPhone bandwagon for numerous reasons. But I typically prefer the feel of the Android. And I was a Motorola guy. I had the Motorola, I forgot the name of it. Then I jumped to the Google Pixel. And I'm a Google Pixel fan. And the only reason I kind of jumped to this phone it was the last of the small phones. This is the iPhone 13 mini. And then I kind of did my research and I found out that nobody else was kind of manufacturing these mini phones. No, Pixel wasn't. And this was going to be Apple's last one, at least for the time being. So I prefer to have the small phone because it fits in my pocket a little better. I don't carry around bags or fanny packs or man purses or whatever thing like that. So it just fits in my pocket better. So I've kind of had this iPhone, and it's a Mac, it's an Apple device, so it feels correctly. But I kind of bring it up in class, like, yo, I think the Android just kind of does a lot of the phone things and a lot of the things that I use a little better, especially the video and the camera functionality and so on and so forth. So, of course, out of the class, it's like 99% iPhone users, and they're like jumping on me, and they're almost like looking at me like almost like I got a Bobo phone. And I call it a Bobo phone. Like back in the day, if you had cheap sneakers on, we called them Bobos. So I grew up wearing Bobos for half of my schooling career, right? So it's like they kind of iPhone people, especially young iPhone people, tend to treat people that are Android people or the people that just don't have iPhones like they got Bobo phones. Like it is crazy. So, you know, I don't stop conversations. I kind of rode that wave. I rode that conversation wave, and I asked them, what's the difference between a $50 Android phone? I'm throwing out just a Google Pixel, which is very comparable, or a Samsung, I forgot, the Galaxies. They're very comparable. And there's a lot of comparable phones, but, you know, iPhone people see it as iPhone and everybody else. It's kind of like Nike people say Nike and then everything else. Starbucks and everything else, Chick-fil-A and everything else, right? You have those kind of people. So I was like, why would you be willing to spend $1,100 for an iPhone where you can really get an Android for like $50 that does pretty much 95% of what an iPhone can do, like the stuff you use an iPhone for, it can do. And of course, none of them had any like direct answers. Like their answers would be something like, "But the blue bubbles, though." It'd be like, "But the blue bubbles is enough. It's enough for me to spend basically $1,000. Like the $1,000. That's how. And I don't want to call it crazy. It just is what it is. It's like the blue bubbles, though, or it just feels right, or you know, they'll make like blanket statements like Apple just." The stuff just works. It's just easier to use. And it's just like, you're not really... It's like if I put an Android in your hand, I'm like, go download the same apps you have on your iPhone and then use them. It's just going to be like, yeah, I can do the same stuff. And I don't get direct answers. Same for like brands I mentioned, like Chick-fil-A or Nike. It's just like, you can't explain a lot of times why you would pay a premium or why you would pay more for something. And then we started talking, and I had to get off the tangent because I was getting off topic. But I wanted to go down the line of, I always bring it back to us creatives as being superheroes, right? And our superpower is creativity. Our superpower is knowing what users like, not based on analytics and based on numbers and uses and likes. We kind of have that, we know how things should feel, right? I always contend that Apple products do well, and it makes them one of the most valuable companies in the world because their products just feel right. And I had a podcast before, a previous podcast, you know, I'll have it as the linked video at the end of this video, but I forgot the name of it. But I do address the iPhone jiggle, the Apple jiggle, right? You know, that term is kind of cringy, but that's the best way I can describe it. Apple products, whether it's the Mac OS X or it's the iOS, it's a certain way that Mac products move and feel, the rounded corners, the way when you hold down an icon and they start jumping, right? You know, Apple has patents on some of these things, so other phones can't use stuff. For instance, and I'm just kind of talking right now. I'm not basing this on research, right? I'm freestyling, but Like the corners. I've heard that, there's a certain way that Apple products, how their corners, the radius of their corners, and no other kind of product can use that how their corners, the radius of their corners, right? And that's a certain feel that people get used to. People don't notice it. People are like, I just love these corners. Like, no, nobody's really like that, but it's a part of the overall feel. And feel is very, very, very valuable, right? And then when I'm talking to my students in our superpower, and we kind of know this feel, so this comes out of a class, it's basic graphic design, where I start to talk about the principles and the elements of design, right? So we were talking about the principles, and I'm talking about how the principles of design are like the rules, but they're not tangible. So things like balance, things like using hierarchy, using proportion and scale and all that good stuff. You can't hold or feel scale. You can't hold or feel balance, right? Once we get into the elements, point, line, shape, typography, color, all that good stuff, you can see, feel all that stuff, right? But when I'm telling them about the rules, it's kind of, I had to remind them that design is one of those disciplines where you have to show and prove. It's a show and prove discipline, because most of the stuff you develop or you create, you have to show it immediately. You have to put it up in front of people and say, here's what I just did. Whereas a lot of other professions, you could do research, you could do writing, you can do a lot of stuff, and the masses aren't going to see it, or people aren't going to see it. It's just going to be, it might be an essay when it comes to education. It might be, you ran these numbers for your boss, and then nobody cares about seeing the numbers. They just wondering if the numbers you ran were correct, or you went and got those files, or there's other professions also, like maybe like plastic surgeons, like you'll do something and then it's immediately seen. You can immediately see it. Like those kind of professions, I think, have a little extra level of pressure, because you have to, a lot of the stuff we do, especially in my field that I'm more focused on now, UI, UX, that stuff has to be used. That stuff has to be used. And that might make a difference between a company succeeding or not succeeding. That's a big deal, right? And it's usually put on, if you just hire me as a consultant, it's put on one person for that very, very, very important position. And to be honest, it's not like we're getting paid a whole lot of money to do it either. So it's like, you got to put it out there, and it has to work. It has to be effective, not necessarily beautiful. It just has to be effective. So getting back to the point, what's the value of aesthetics? What's the value of the feel? What's the value of kind of creating that jiggle, right? And that's one of those things where it's like, who determines who's cool or not, right? There's no like set entity in our society that's like the cool police. Like, this person's cool, this person's whack. Like, nah, it's like a feel. Like, you can feel it. Like, yeah, I think that person's cool. And sometimes you got people like that. They just have a lot more people around them that think they're cool. And you have some other people that they have a lot more people around them that think they're whack, right? And everybody can say it's subjective. Somebody might think that whack person is cool. Yeah, but usually the cool people, it's a lot more people that think they're cool. Usually. But in those whack people, there's a lot more people around them that think they're whack. Of course, they're going to have people that they're friends that think they're cool. But this how it shakes out. It's like a feel thing. I'm going on off topic. I'm going a little tangent right now. But, so, for instance, let's just get into some examples. I already mentioned Android versus iPhone. I'll probably come back to that, because that's a hot button. This is something simple. Coffee, right? Starbucks. Starbucks is a cult brand. It's a cult level brand. When I say cult level, I'm gonna do another podcast on cult branding in a minute, because that used to be my bread and butter back in the day. But Starbucks is what I consider a cult brand, meaning that they have followers. I feel like Starbucks has followers, not necessarily consumers, people that just love their coffee. Nah, I think people like when they see the Starbucks logo going down the street, even if they just had a coffee, they feel the need to like, yeah, I think I should just bust a UE real quick and just go get a coffee. It's like that green logo, that siren logo, that it's like calling them, like, come in. And it's some drugs, and I'm just gonna say it, whatever. Caffeine is a drug, sugar is a drug. And that's what's in basically Starbucks is caffeine and sugar. And both are addictive. And if you've had a Starbucks drink that's not just a straight Americano or espresso or coffee, it's a sugar drink. It's like a Kool-Aid. It's like Kool-Aid. It's like coffee flavored Kool-Aid. That's what Starbucks drinks are, Dunkin' and all that stuff. So it's like, what's the difference between Starbucks and then gas station coffee? You can go to any gas station and they have coffee and they got hazelnut and they have cocoa and they got all the flavors and they got all the cups. But the thing is about the gas station coffee, you can get it for like $1. You can put all the flavoring, all the sugar you want in it, and it's like $1 or $2. Whereas you go to Starbucks and you starting at, and I'm not a smart Starbucks person, but you're probably starting at like $7 for anything in there outside of an espresso shot. An espresso shot might be $3, $2 just for this much liquid, which is crazy. So it's like what makes it so Starbucks can charge $7 for a cup of coffee, and like I said, I know that number is off, but I'll correct it probably and post edit. But $7 for a coffee at Starbucks or a latte or extra venti, extra hot with a sliver of, how Starbucks has its own language. That's why also it's a cult like thing because they have their own language. They've created their own way of talking. You feel uncomfortable in there if you don't know their language. But what's the difference between that and then the gas station? And I would contend is like, I'm not answering that question, but what's the value of the Starbucks experience as opposed to gas station coffee? If you're a person that needs coffee in the morning, why not go and get some gas station coffee? I bet you money that the beans they use in gas station coffee is not that much like lower quality than Starbucks beans. Like it just can't be, right? But it's just like what makes you pay that premium, that extra $6, that extra $5 to go to Starbucks and feel it? Is it how they greet you? Is it how the Starbucks smells? Is it how it feels, that kind of dimly lit kind of environment? Do you like to just chill in that environment and not go to a dirty gas station, right? Or Starbucks versus Dunkin'. Dunkin' stuff is a little bit cheaper than Starbucks. They got pretty much the same stuff, but Dunkin' has donuts and Starbucks has kale sandwiches, I think, right? So what makes you pay that premium? Another example. A purse, right? So you get a bag and you need a purse, bag, whatever. You get it from Target, $50, $30. It's a bag. You can put stuff in it. It has a handle. You can carry it. You can put it over your shoulder. It could be stylish. You could choose from different ones. Some are even made from leather. But it's $50 if it's from Target, I'm assuming, right? As opposed to maybe a $5,000 Gucci bag. And now I'm speaking on ignorance because I might be saying like $5,000 Gucci bag, and some people might be listening like 5,000 shoes. Think about 10,000. If you 5,000, you po. Like I'm kind of ignorant to that, but I know. It's like, what's the difference between you getting this a Gucci Target bag, a bag if you need something to put stuff in, or what's the big jump from $50 to 5,000 to get a Gucci bag or a Louis Vuitton bag or an MCN bag, or now I'm out of my range altogether, right? Dooney and Burke, whatever. I'm trying to just name stuff that I may know of. But what's the difference? That's what we do as creatives. Like as designers, a designer decides how that Gucci bag is going to look, how that Target brand bag is going to look, how that Dooney and Burke, how everything is going to kind of look and feel, whether it's a fashion designer, a visual designer, industrial designer, a product designer. We make those decisions. We make those aesthetic decisions that a lot of times get overlooked, but it's just put into the whole pot of how it feels. So when I asked ladies about their bags, they mentioned stuff like the threading, that it'll last forever. And I'm like, okay, cool. You spend $5,000 for something that lasts your lifetime. But I'm like, but you pay $50 for this bag that when you put it next to it, it's like comparable. And, it might tear up in a few years, but then you just buy another $50 bag. And that's still just $100. It's like, you're never going to buy enough bags to reach 5,000. Right? Is it the name? Is it the logo? Is it the Gucci name? Is it the Louis Vuitton name or that look insignia? Is that worth $5,000? And is it worth it to you, or is it worth it to them to see you with that logo on? Right? How do you measure that value? Another example. Bobo, I mentioned Bobo's earlier, right? Bobo, and I'm gonna sing the Bobo song. I'm gonna sing the Bobo song. In school, we were cruel. There was a Bobo song. Sing it along with me if you know it. And if I mess it up, I'll just keep going. Bobo's. Shoot, I messed up. All right, I think I got it. Bobo's. Oh man, why am I forgetting the song right now? I feel like looking it up, and then post production, I'm gonna do this right. I know it. All right, here goes the Bobo song. Bobos, they make your feet feel fine. Bobos, they cost $1.99. Bobos, and then it goes like that, right? And we would sing that to kids. I wouldn't say we, in elementary middle, because I was that kid with Bobos on. Quick story about Bobos. Tangent. Middle school. I will never forget this. I got some new sneakers during the middle of the school year because I usually only got one pair of shoes per school year, right? And I had to just make it work. That's why people like us, we keep our sneakers clean. Like, I had to explain that to people. Like, I'll bring out some sneakers that's 15, 20 years old. And they're like, how you still, they look brand new. I'm like, I just learned growing up to keep things clean because I had one pair of shoes for the whole year. So I think these shoes I got in the middle of the year, I can't remember, but it feels like they were like too new to be in the middle of the year when this happened. But they were Sprints. They came from Pickway shoes, which is probably now was Payless and whatever. In Pickway, just the name, this just sounds like a name for it's a cheap shoe seller. Pickway, like could y'all choose like a cheaper sounding name? But anyway, we went to Pickway, smells like plastic in it, and we go in there and I'm like, oh, we love some Adidas, but we don't have Adidas money, so I'm gonna get these Adidas lookalike Sprints. And they were white and they were red and with red stripes, but they had 4 stripes instead of 3. Right? I wasn't tripping for real. I preferred it, but I wasn't tripping. I let my mom get them. I was that kind of kid. I was appreciative. And I was rocking them at school. I was a cool kid. I was that guy. I wasn't never not that guy. But I had Bobos. So this dude, I'll never forget his name. I think his name is he rolled up to me, and I could tell his group kind of put him up to it. And he come up to me because he always had the dope kicks. He always had. I remember this. This got to be like 7th grade, and I remember he had the black and purple flights. I forgot who they might have been. I don't want to lie, but they might have been Penny Hardaway's. I don't know. But it was black, all black, and then purple, like the purple swoosh flights. High top, that kind of suede material, that brushed leather, and they were brand new. Like he would have Jordans. Not a lot of people at our school was like that at middle school in Monroe, but he had them. He came up to me like, yo, what up, man? Like, what kind of shoes are those? Right? And it was just like, he was trying to be funny. But, I was just like, without skipping a beat, I was like, they Sprints. Like, I know what you're trying to do. Right? Y'all know they not Adidas. Like, why would you ask me that? So as a little kid, you don't know, but it's just like, really, you're not making fun of me. You're making fun of my moms. That's how I felt. Like, you're making fun of my moms. Like, this is what we can afford, and this is what I got on my feet. They're new shoes. I can't afford your shoes. I know your shoes cost like $90 or $100. I can't just get those shoes, like, ever, really. I can't even get those, really, at this point. So I would never forget that. And it's just like, so bringing it back off that tangent, Bobos versus Jordans or anything like that. Any like premium Nikes, premium Adidas, prettiest, these other kind of, I think we've, in our culture, which is, I think is, I would call it whack. They were starting to wear like designer sneakers, which is whack to me. It makes me seem old as I say it. But this is like, so anyway, what's the difference? What makes you want to pay money for those designer sneakers or those Jordans? Those $200 Jordans versus these $60 shoes you can get at Shoe Carnival that are nice, that look nice and everything. Like, what makes you pay that premium? Is it the feel? Because I know I have a pair of J's. I have one pair of J's, the Jordan 3s, my favorite shoes, the blue ones with the snake skin in the back. Those are like heels. Those things hurt my feet. You could tell those shoes are made for basketball players to play basketball in, not to just be chilling, hanging. My bunions be killing me, right? And it's like, hey, that's a premium. I had to get those off market, right? And it's like, what would you pay for that premium? What makes it premium? Is it the feel? Is it the look? Is it the label? Right? What is it that makes you make that big jump from 60 to 200 or 60 to 2 or 300, 400? Some people are wearing $1,000 shoes, like sneakers, not like hard shoes, like sneakers. What makes you pay that premium? Another example. I'm having trouble reading my writing, which is crazy. It's getting back to the field, getting back to the design field. If any fellow designers out there, Photoshop, just say Adobe, just say that Adobe Suite, but I'm just going to concentrate on Photoshop. Photoshop, and there's a program called GIMP. GIMP is free. GIMP pretty much can do everything Photoshop can do, all the important stuff. But Photoshop is not free. You got to pay a subscription for that. The student one is probably around $10 or $15 a month. I know the professional subscription to the Adobe Creative Cloud, at least, is like $60 a month, which is, not cheap. Whereas you can do everything you need with GIMP or maybe in Canva now, right? But there's something that's had to be said about the Photoshop experience. When you tell people, oh, I did this in Photoshop, I don't hear a lot of people saying, yeah, I did this in GIMP. But GIMP is free, and it's basically Photoshop. What makes you pay the premium for Photoshop, right? What makes you pay the premium? So another one, Tubi versus any of these other streaming services that you have to pay for. Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, Hulu, Paramount Plus, Peacock, what's the other one? There's a lot of them, right? I subscribe to DAZN because I like my boxing. You got Thriller or Triller. You have a lot of them. But Tubi is free and it has shows. Roku TV stuff is free and it has shows. YouTube is free for real and it has shows. I know some people just, their whole TV experience is YouTube. If it's not on YouTube, they not watching it. Right? And it's not even YouTube Premium. They got ads. And it's like, what makes you pay $9.99 a month, $15 a month, $20 a month for? Is it extra channels? Is it no commercials? Is it a better experience? Do they have higher level content? What makes you pay that premium? So that was the whole tangent. Is just like, what do we pay for the aesthetics? Not even want to pay, like, how do we value aesthetics? So this also gets into the realm of how us as creatives look to get paid, right? I don't like using stuff like money and paid and stuff, but like how we have trouble. I would say me, because I can see people watching like, not me, I don't have no trouble. I'm rich. I'm a rich designer. I don't know if there's any rich designers, but there's some rich designers out there, right? I'm not a rich designer, right? But I've oftentimes found myself having struggles proving or trying to prove my value, the value I bring to a project, right? Because usually what happens is I'm going to start up right now that I've been on for a while, and the makeup of this startup is, owner, founder, CEO. He's loaded. I would just say he's loaded. Then we have me, the designer. I'm the only creative on the team. You have somebody that's under the CEO who is like, he's an investor, but he also kind of knows something about the space we're in, right? And then we have two developers, right? We have a front end coder and we have a back end coder, and we have we used to have two. Yeah, I think we still have two testers. It's quality assurance people. They just constantly test the app and make sure it's not broken, and we meet every week to just work out the kinks. And then and that's it. That's basically it, right? And what I did is I created the branding, so the logo, the brand, the brand rules and all that stuff, how it just look. And I developed the app. I didn't develop the app. I designed the app. So I designed the whole flow, how it fits together. I did it in Figma and all the good stuff. And then the developers code it. And then the testers test it. Right? But I know my role, my role, I'm just going to be honest. I don't feel like my role was not as valued on that team as the developers, no doubt, and probably even the testers. I'm probably the least valued person on that team. And I've been on a few teams like that. And I'll just say from my experience, that's usually the case. Like, not saying that they don't value what I do. They definitely value what I do, like, for real. But I think it's least valued. And not just from a monetary, but that's a big deal. Like, I don't count anybody else's pockets, but I know for a fact that I'm not getting paid as much as anybody on the squad. I'm not, right? And but it's all good. But like, it's like trying to prove your value. That's why when I teach my students certain things, especially when I'm talking about professional practices, I'm like, describe your work, write things down, come with a design proposal, know how to read a contract, put together when you're talking about what you're going to do for a client, put what you're going to exactly be doing and putting time frames on it and putting the value. And this is how much I charge per hour. And this is this is why I'm charging this, right? Don't make a logo for somebody for $25. Because that's basically saying like, yo, I think this logo, this brand for your business is not even worth, minimum wage type of things. But it's just like, we bring value, creatives, we bring value to things. We make things feel right. We make things, when somebody's going through a mall and for instance, and I think this is one of my first podcasts, but you go into a mall and it used to be the Gap and now it's New York Fashions. And it doesn't look the same. Same space. It can be even selling clothes. But it just doesn't look as polished as the Gap, the old Gap used to look. The logo, the brand mark that they have outside the store is airbrushed. Look like they got it done at FedEx Kinko's. First off, I don't want to go in that store. The fact that the Gap one you could tell they got it from a sign company and they had to bring it in. You could tell it's a process. We don't think about it, but we look at that like, oh, this company takes itself a little more seriously, right? I trust this company. If I give them my credit card, it's going to be all good. I trust that their clothes are going to be free from defects just because how it looks, how the floors look, how clean it looks, how tidy the racks are. Whereas in New York Fashions, the dude's behind the counter on the phone, it smells like sawdust. You know what I'm saying? It still looks like the Gap because they ain't changed nothing in it. They was like, hey, Gap, keep that stuff here. We'll keep it, and they got it. And just like, they just got stuff draped. It just doesn't look the same, right? And that's like, I bet they could charge more money if they made their store just feel a little better. I'm not even going to say look better. Just feel better. You greet people, the way you talk to them, the way things feel, the way things are organized, how clean the dressing rooms are, right? The technology you're using to make purchases. Take the Apple Store, for example. You go into an Apple Store, it's like 2,000 Apple geniuses walking around. Like, it's more Apple geniuses in there sometimes than patrons, right? But they're always like, hey, you need something? Everything's out. Everything looks clean. It's like a weird dynamic, and it's a very unique dynamic. There's really no other store, like, in a mall setting that kind of looks and functions like the Apple Store. And Apple, whenever I need inspiration for things like this, I kind of start at Apple and then go to these other kind of companies. Like Lululemon, like there's some other companies out here that just kind of like they have a successful feel that people really appreciate, right? And a lot of times you cannot put your finger on it. Microsoft, for instance, I'm not gonna say they did this, but I remember I'm from Columbus, Ohio, so our little shopping area that's real big is Easton, and the Apple Store was one of the original stores, and then eventually Microsoft opened a store in there. I don't know if it's still open. I don't know if Microsoft still has stores, but it was clearly in response to the Apple Store. Like, oh, they got an Apple Store, we're gonna have a store too. But I remember going there and it's like, y'all trying to be the Apple Store, but not be the Apple Store, and it just feels corny. It just felt corny in there. It felt corny. It was like they weren't being themselves. They were being like Apple and trying to kind of shoehorn themselves into the Apple experience. And it was just a cornball experience. And that's generally how creatives like me see Microsoft, to be honest. Because I think their market isn't us, and when they try to kind of have that feeling, they just try to copy other people's feelings. And then they try to put it in their product. Like when they launched their Microsoft phones, I forgot what they were called. They weren't bad phones, to be honest. Like the way they look, and they had that window, they had that like block type of navigation. I forgot what it was called, but I actually liked that navigation. It was like everything was a square, rectangle was all connected, and I think it was kind of a dope interface, but they just got the feel wrong. It didn't feel right scrolling through it, hitting buttons. It just didn't feel right, so it didn't succeed. I think it was a flop. And I think a lot of tech companies flop because they're trying to follow Apple. You look at every phone out there, it's just a derivative of the iPhone, right? And nobody has kind of like supplanted iPhone as far as like the people's choice in this country, at least. So they have a monopoly on this field, and it might be because they just patent everything, and nobody can one-to-one duplicate what they do or what they have. So everything may just feel off a little bit. It just might feel off. Like this iPhone, and I'm going to take it out the case because that's the beauty of the phone. We cover it up with these cases all the time. But it's like, it's a beautiful product. It looks beautiful, right? But then you buy other phones and it tries to look like this, so you got to compare it to this. And it's just having a hard time doing it. So again, how do we value aesthetics? What would we pay for shine, the shimmer, the prestige? Do you feel prestigious when you bring your iPhone out? Because 80% of people in this country have iPhones. Like, I don't see anything special. There's a prestige when somebody's carrying a Gucci bag or a Gucci purse, or there's prestige when you're wearing some kind of T-shirt that everybody knows is like a $2,000 T-shirt. There's a prestige when you're wearing Jordans. There's prestige when you're pushing around a Cybertruck. I mean, there's so many Cybertrucks down here. It's like almost getting corny. Like these Cybertrucks are starting to get corny already. I think the Teslas already have, to me at least. They used to be sweet to me. Now they're like, womp womp. They really are. And there's a fine line between cool and corny. And maybe that could be a tangent. Ooh, that's a podcast episode waiting to happen. The fine line between cool and corny. I already did one talking about what's awesome versus dope when it comes to AI stuff, but there's a fine line between cool and corny. And some of these companies, only a handful of them that do cool really well. And then there's a lot of companies that do try to be cool, not so good, right? They're good enough to just like Android has a lot of the market share, but Android's a operating system. It's not a product. The Google Pixel market share is like 1%. Like 1% of all of us have Google Pixels. That's part of the reason why I prefer the Google Pixel, to be honest. I feel like when I pull my phone out, when I have a Google Pixel, I'm pulling out a phone that there's a good chance nobody else has in the room. That just is. And I've always been like that. My friends have accused me of that, and I've always denied it. Now I'm just saying, yeah, it's probably. I am a true, I don't even know the word, dissenter. I like to do different stuff. I might eventually come back to the masses and get those Jordans and wear those Air Force, get those, another thing that's corny now? You know that fine line between cool and corny? You know what another thing's corny to me now is those Jordan 1s, the low-top Jordan 1s people be getting, and the SB Dunks people be rocking. Like this whole, as soon as Suburbia and Soccer Moms start doing it, it's corny. It just is. I'm not casting dispersions on Soccer Moms. But as soon as Soccer Moms started doing the Soulja Boy, the Soulja Boy was corny. As soon as Soccer Moms started wearing the SB Dunks and Jordans. It's just corny now. Now it's like, I don't want to wear the same stuff that soccer moms be wearing. Now the soccer moms think they're cool. And it's up to the cool people to find something else cool. Right? So the people won't get tricked into thinking they're cool. They always have an overlap moment when they think they're part of the coolness. It's the reason why Facebook's not cool anymore. Like for the young people, the young people don't use Facebook. We talk about it in the class over every time. Like they see Facebook, even though they still have it. So you look at stats like, yeah, young people still have it. They use it for family stuff, but they don't use it for the cool stuff they do. Because their grandparents got on it. Their parents got on it. As soon as their parents got on it, it was like, this is not the cool thing anymore. Let's find something else. Snapchat. That's why you have these things dropping all the time. Because as soon as it gets too big, it gets corny, and then you need something else that's just not that. It's like Threads right now. Like Threads is just not X. It's basically, it looked like somebody just went into AI, like create an app that's just like X, but it's not X. Or just like Twitter and it's not Twitter. And that's basically what Threads is, right? And this is like, X got corny. X is like a news channel right now. X is like where you go get information, not where you go get cool stuff, or you go to have a cool experience. You go to X now to like, if you just want to see cringy stuff, if you kind of want to see, it's crazy. You want to see, it's just crazy. I don't even want to go into it. So anyway, what's that fine line between cool and corny? And a lot of times, maybe that's people will pay a premium for cool. Maybe that's the delineation. Then it's like, then you ask like, what's cool? You know, try to ask AI what cool is. AI doesn't have an idea what cool is, but because cool is a feeling. They don't know the definition of it. They'll even say the right words, like, but they can't feel it. I was talking to AI. I'm gonna end it with this. I was talking to ChatGPT the other day. This feels like I was just like called up ChatGPT and we was having a conversation. It's kind of like that. I just wanted to test out the voice, the conversation feature. And we started talking about music. And I asked it what his favorite music was. And it said hip hop and R&B. And I was like, hey, you probably just said that because you know that I like hip hop and R&B. And they're like, no, but I know that's the case, right? And I'm like, hey, do you feel the rhythm? Can you feel the rhythm? Do you know what these songs like sound like? And they're like, no, I can't hear music. And I can't feel music. Like AI can't feel. And cool is a feeling. And I think with this AI generation kind of taking over, we're gonna see a lot more corny. We're gonna see a lot more amazing stuff that's just amazing, like video games like Body Cam or something like that. But that doesn't mean they're like good or cool or anything. It's just like we're gonna see a lot more corny stuff because it's gonna be way easier to duplicate and automate corny stuff. Then we're still going to have to rely on y'all, the cool people, to come up with cool stuff. That's my saving grace. And the people that are afraid, about this AI era and they're thinking jobs and blah, blah, and automation and it's not going to be personal anymore. I'm kind of the silver lining that I'm hoping that's going to happen is that it's going to make those of us that can create cool, that we just have that secret sauce that you can't really teach. It's kind of like being fast. It's hard to teach fast. Like it's hard to teach cool. And those of us that kind of know cool, not necessarily for ourselves, but kind of the people that know at Apple that just know feel. They know how it should feel like. Like the people that know cool and they know what cool feels like. Right? Like Andre 3000, for instance. He's just a cool dude. Like whatever he does or says is just cool. You can't teach that. I think those kind of people are going to be at a premium going forward. Because through all the corniness and going through all the corn stalks, and there's going to be corn stalks for like miles and miles. We're like going to be in my hometown, not in the city, but when, as soon as you get out of Columbus, it's corn everywhere. It is what y'all think Columbus is, but not in Columbus proper. But once you kind of get out of Columbus, yeah, it's corns and cows, no doubt. And you just going through corn and getting through the corn, and then you come up on cool, a little bit of cool. And those people that can create that space of coolness are going to be at a premium. I think those people are going to be our world builders, are going to be our creators, right? They're going to be our, I don't even go into builders. I think a lot of that stuff's going to start getting automated. But like the people that come up with the cool concepts, with the cool ideas, we're going to start seeing things we've never thought about, because we're going to have to think about stuff that's not normal, because AI is going to be great at normal. AI is going to be super great at corny, right? It's going to be a lot of gray stuff. It's going to be gray, white, normal. And then, as soon as AI starts trying to be cool, soon as it starts trying to be cool on purpose, which is probably already has, like, I'm going to make this, I can't even refer to it like as a person, but it's going to think it knows what cool is, because somebody's going to put in an algorithm or put in a prompt, like, and make it cool. And what's cool? You can't define what cool is, because soon as something is cool, tomorrow it's not cool, and you can't explain why. And a lot of times, the most uncool people, the prognosticators, the people that are on platforms like this, I can even accuse me of this. Like, the people that aren't cool are usually the people talking about cool. The people that are cool don't talk about being cool. As soon as you talk about being cool, it comes off as corny. All right? So the difference between the value we put on aesthetics, and when I'm talking about aesthetics, I'm talking about the feel. Those people that can kind of pull that off, like, what value are we going to place on them in this new world that we're entering? And I'm just trying to be on the forefront, not necessarily be that cool dude, or you got to call me to be cool. That'd be dope though. But I just kind of want to see, like, I'm sitting back and watching. Like, I'm observing. It's exciting just to watch and see what's happening. Seeing all these tools come out, all these things come out that are cool, and it's just exciting. But how much will people pay for cool, right? What is the price of aesthetics, right? What's the value you put on aesthetics, right? It's like, I can give you some playing cards, like a deck of cards, just with Jack, King, blah, 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 right? You put them out there, you sell them, and it just doesn't have a back on it. It just has a red back on them. It's just kind of cool. And I can put them out there. I can maybe sell them for $2. But then you do another set of playing cards, and you put them in a nice box, not a regular package. You put it in a box, right? You put that box in a packaging, kind of like how Crown Royal puts, their liquor into this royal looking bag, right? For instance. And then you pull the cards out, and they're a little more heavier than your regular cards. And maybe the back of them every back of the card is like a celebrity or an anime character or a piece of art. Like, they commissioned 52 artists, and every card has a unique. That wouldn't work, because then everybody would know the cards. That's dumb. But maybe on the other side, where the Jack, King, and 2, 3 and all that stuff, maybe the artist kind of designs that, right? So that's a premium. Now, we don't know if it's cool yet, though, because you could put something out there. For instance, the game they just put out that kind of came out, and it was a AAA game. AAA game means, like, basically they put in a lot of time, like years and years, almost like a blockbuster movie, and a lot of millions of dollars, and they call it a AAA game. And I guess this game was being developed for 8 years, and people have been waiting on it, and it finally dropped. I think it was called Colony, and they poured it in 2 weeks, because it wasn't doing well. And from the reviews I've read, they're all saying it's not a bad game. Like, it's a pretty good game. It's just, it's like a lot of other games, and we had high expectations, and the expectations weren't met, so we're disappointed, so we're not playing the game. So they spent millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars on there, and they're about to lose millions and millions of dollars because it's just not cool. It's not a cool game. It's like it's like the butt of jokes now. Like, that line between cool and corny is strong. So be cool. Learn how to create cool. Learn what is. Don't even learn. I don't want to say learn. Just pay attention to what cool is. Figure out what's cool in your life, and then observe it. beyond just kind of like your normal way of observing, right? Observe it. Observe how people interact with it, why it came about, how long it's been out, why is it cool to you? Is it cool to other people? Is it cool just because you like it? Is it cool because a lot of people think it's cool? Are you part of a cult? Are you part of this cool cult? Right? Ask these questions, and I think it'll give you a little more insight as to what value we place on aesthetics. That's all I have for today. Earphones just fell out. It's all good. I'm gonna edit that. Well, we'll see if we edit it, because this was a freestyle day. This is a freestyle day. I just came in. I didn't really have a plan. I just sat down like, I'm just here. It's Friday. I'm just going to start talking. Because usually I just start talking on my phone. Just start talking to my phone. So I'm going to end it with that. For another Office Hour Tangents. Thanks for listening. Oh, like, subscribe. The good stuff, right? Like, subscribe, share. I'm missing one, but it should be right there. Right there, right? I'm tripping today. But until next time, peace.